Welcome back. Now, Mr. Wemi, the matter of processes, is it possible for us to insulate our processes from our politics?
Well, that may be tough, but this goes to the question of institutions, having institutions. If trust matters to you, and it does matter in investment, in mobilizing people, in encouraging the public to buy into what you're doing, trust is critical. You then have to have institutions that are able to conduct themselves. I'll give you one example. What NCC did under NS Ndukwe, who stood by and insisted that with the organizational structure, NCC is still standing today. They may not be perfect, but they continue to inch forward to allow us to have data, voice. They move forward to make sure that data was available. They kept us competitive within the African space. And that goes to the credibility of the whole process. Since then, other players emerged, like Etisalat came in. Since other than Vodafone came in. You understand? People are able to enter and exit. That is a credible system. I don't keep on beating on this energy problem again to use it, but you can look at it in energy, you can look at it in your airports, in the kind of approach you have, in the kind of how we've dealt with infrastructure as a whole, the kind of challenges we have. So what we are seeking for is the most important critical thing is that there must be clarity, both from the public and for those investors who want to come in to understand this is where government wants to go. It helps to build a basis upon which people can have a fair expectation that things will work well. And like you use the word hope, if people are clear as to your process, they can build expectation. If you look at the refineries, therefore, then say, look, based on this program they have, these refineries will scale up their production from, say, maybe 30,000 barrels. By Q2, they will go to maybe 45. And then you can see a time path towards maybe by 2020, they would have gotten to 210. Maybe around the same time, they're also building another capacity to speed it up. People can see clearly. And then there's expectation. With expectation, no matter the challenges you're going in an economy, this unquantifiable factor helps people to hold on, stay strong, and say we'll overcome.
Talking about expectation, we did have expectations when those refinery licenses were given out, 6, 7 years ago? And all those expectations have been dashed.
Well, I don't know whether I had expectations. Because there were no clear targets. There are no clear targets. You just gave licenses. You didn't say, hopefully you are expected to build within
X years.
Again, that's what I mean by clarity. There must be clarity for you to have a reasonable basis for expectation. The fact that they gave licenses out without any compulsion, any time limit to construct, any time limit to take off, it doesn't make any difference. The question you should ask is, what did anybody do with those licenses? What were they entitled to with those licenses? Because they couldn't have held on to licenses without doing anything with it.
So what have they done with those licenses?
Again, maybe that's what the Senate may focus its attention on rather than spending time with the musical chairs. The real question you want to ask yourself is that at any given point in time, this thing is not rocket science, really. So let's be much more. Actually, you're not going to ask me a question.
No. That's the thing. Someone actually said, but when you said, what did they do with the licenses? There were stories out there that some of them used the licenses to go to the banks to seek for funding, but the banks wouldn't even give the funding that needed.
Some banks gave.
Some banks gave.
Do you know what it means to have an oil refinery license? That's an actual ticket to money. So that's a guaranteed investment.
Yeah, but just one moment, Mr. William. Before you go and seek to have a license, wouldn't you have done your backroom work first and make sure that everything is in order so that as soon as you get your license, you move into action? So you take that license to the bank. That's kind of like medicine after death. You've got the license, now you're looking for who's going to fund it. You should have looked for that before you went to look for the license, don't you think?
The first statement we made was that if there's no clarity, if there's no due process, if there's no transparency, what you end up
what happens
are things like this. And then if we seriously on a Saturday morning want to spend time talking about The same old story we've been talking about since we were kids are still the same thing we're talking about today. At some stage, we must grow up as a people and say, let's have a much more constructive. Look, there are competent people in this country who don't understand how this industry works. All you need is to pre-qualify people for certain things. The pre-qualification enables the best of the best to be able to be available, not just for our refineries, but for our roads, our rails.
Power.
Ethiopia is doing rail network. Kenya last week linked Nairobi to Mombasa. And we are still doing the carriage. By the way, the Kaduna Abuja one was a very good one. But why is that such a significant thing? For a country like Nigeria, we need to be much more imaginative. We need to be bold in terms of how we look at things and say, okay, look, we want the best in the world to come and bid for this thing because we are ready to go.